the character of Jesus Christ. What was he like? This guy that claims to be God, what was he like when you met him? Okay? Well, let's start off with this. If you ever sat down with a friend and asked them this question over a cup of coffee, hey, let's get together. Let's talk about today what Jesus did wrong. How long would your conversation be? Be a real short conversation, wouldn't it? All right, now turn that around. Let's say that we're with your family, okay? Let's say it's Thanksgiving or Christmas. You got all the relatives, all the kids there. And Dad, you stand up and you say, now gather around, friends. I got to ask you a question. I'd like to know, can anybody here remember one thing that I've done wrong? Would any guy here like to try and say that? I can see the kids that would, if you said, you know, write them down and hand them in, the kids would say, hey, Dad, could I have more paper? I mean, none of us would say something like that. But Jesus made that exact statement to his enemies, not to the guys that loved him. He asked his enemies, which one of you can convict me of one sin? And nobody could say anything. Jesus possessed a keen moral judgment, if you want, a spiritual radar is what I call it. When he looked at other people, it wasn't that he didn't know the difference between right and wrong. Do you remember when he looked at the religious leaders of his own day? He saw their sins and was not afraid to say something about it, was he? He called them whitewashed sepulchres. They looked pretty on the outside. Inside, they were full of dead men's bones. He called them snakes in the grass. He told them they were proud. He told them they were hypocrites. I mean, that's pretty strong language. You say that to the pastor, right? You're a snake in the grass. So the fact is that Jesus, when he looked at other people, he had this moral radar that went right out there, and he was not afraid to say something. Even his own disciples, when they came and said, look, Jesus got this little request. One of us would like to sit on your left hand, the other one on the right hand when you come into power. Just a little request. Jesus said, this thing of one-upmanship, it shall not be so among you. But the one that wants to be the greatest, you need to be the servant. And if you want to be the very top of the totem pole, you be the slave. You do anything. So Jesus was not afraid to rebuke his own disciples or the religious leaders of his own day. He had the spiritual radar that went out that didn't quit. And yet, when he focused that spiritual radar on himself, you never hear him say that he did one sin. You never hear one prayer of his confessing to the Father that I've sinned. You never hear any of the disciples say, he sinned, he blew it over here. Now that in itself is really remarkable. Do you know anybody else like that? No, we can't think of one person in history that has those kinds of qualifications. We can't think of one person in history except Jesus Christ. He must be unique.